So, good afternoon, everyone, and I am so happy that you're here today and keeping connected with the policy work of BHI. And just a reminder, I'll be recording the meeting today. So, for those who weren't able to join us today, I'll be sure to send out that video link, likely in tomorrow's BHI Network Policy Digest. And we'll go ahead and just get started with our land acknowledgement. We would like to open this convening by recognizing that we are on the unceded ancestral land of the Coast Salish peoples, the traditional home of all tribes and all bands within the Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, and Muckleshoot nations. And we believe that we cannot work to fulfill our mission and our vision of an anti-racist present if we don't first acknowledge and recognize the true kind of cost as well as the total history of colonization. However, acknowledgement is only our very first step, and we urge you to engage in accountable relationships and informed actions. And first, just a couple of quick announcements. Again, always be sure to send me updates and info for the digest. If you can get it to me today by 5 o'clock, it will be in there tomorrow morning. And so it would be great to have that. I'm always looking forward to hearing about the news I'm not aware of. We need to make sure that we're staying pertinent to our shared priority to increase, maintain, and sustain Black homeownership. So if you're not yet signed up for that digest, go ahead and do so. I have created a little QR code on your screen there. You can scan that and it will take you to the sign up and the link. And we certainly want to always be growing our network and our impact. So please, we do need you to be advocating, demonstrating our relevance to legislative, leaders. So by seeing that digest on Friday, working your way through those advocacy opportunities, that is how we continue to grow our impact. And then just one more quick announcement. And that one would be Go Hawks. I hope many of you had the opportunity to feel the joy in downtown Seattle yesterday, whether that was in person or via your TV screen or a report from your friends. That's my viewpoint down there at the bottom right. It was a great afternoon, and I even had a chance to do a little bit of dancing. After the parade, there was this older minivan with a maxed out sound system that kind of parked under the monorail, and they were doing the Bad Bunny soundtrack. So that was getting everyone moving. It was super fun, a great day. So just since we are on this, like Wednesday was a holiday for some, let's have a little grace for one another and others today. I'll do my best to try and keep us all going and to stay sharp myself. So do not feel bad if others of you are also struggling with this Thursday that came after a Wednesday full of frivolity. All right, so we are going to keep going, and as you're all here to make the change that we need to see for Black homeowners in our time together today, we will start with an icebreaker. I know we're about to hear some framework policies, and that's what we're tuning in for, but it is important for us to take a few minutes to hear from one another first. So many of you in this Zoom room joined me and others on February 10th at the BHI All Partner Summit. And I hope you're going to share some of your reflections during our icebreaker. And after we share, we'll then move into our updates. We have 4 lead bills that we're going to hear about today and 6 new support bills that are in our framework. And when I say new, what I mean is that these bills were not in the framework you received at our December BHI Policy Summit. These bills joined the session after it began, so you have not heard about them in our meetings. And so thanks to all of our presenters today for getting us all caught up. And thanks to our BHI Network Policy Strategy Group for keeping their ear to the ground, ensuring that these bills were elevated as they emerged on the scene. We are a network, everyone's voice matters, and we need all of you helping us to create the most impactful framework that we can have And that happens, both before, during, and after our meetings. So never hesitate to reach out to myself and the members of the strategy group there when you have a policy that's emerging or a question that you have. And then just a reminder, today's meeting is going to be the last one that we'll have before the end of the legislative session. I know it's been a quick pace session. It doesn't feel like it'll end, but it will. And so the next time I meet with all of you, I hope we will be counting our many wins and sharing how we leaned in and advocated to ensure that these policies we selected together will help move the needle on Black homeownership. And as always, we'll end our meeting with a few minutes of open floor time to hear from you, and feel free to share that time to share news that's good for the whole. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get into our icebreaker. So many of you, as I said, we're at the summit, and I can't wait to hear your impressions and your reflections. The event consisted of a morning plenary with Rep. Taylor and many BHI leaders discussing the collective impact we have. After lunch, patients helped everyone get excited to advocate for our framework. And then we broke out into work sessions of the different teams that make up BHI. It was an opportunity to center ourselves in our personal commitment to the work and our collective impact. And just to get us started on reflections for me, what really hit home was when Rep. Taylor was up there and said, how incredibly important it is for all of us to be signing in pro on these bills. She was saying that legislators really do stop and they look at the position roles and they are influenced by them. So I hope we can all double down on getting those quick 30-second advocacy actions done. For the remainder of this session, I try to make it as painless as possible, and I'll continue to do so in the digest. So let's open the floor. Who else would like to share their reflection on the All Partner Summit?
Hi, everyone. Hello. I had a really great time. This was my first summit that I was able to attend. And I thought it was very inspirational. I really appreciated the handout given around the self-assessment of like what it means to be a BHI partner. So I'm taking those responses and reflecting with them and meeting with my team over here at King County to figure out like what are the connections between what we do and the mission of BHI and how can we become better partners. And thanks, Bambi, for we spent quite a bit of time with you at the end at the work group, just talking policy. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one.
I thought that was a really important part of, the time we had together, and it was great to speak with Melissa and a few others and really get into some policy questions and had a little sunshine too. We were by the windows. Anyone else have a reflection they'd like to share from the BHI All Partner Summit that happened on February 10th?
I'll chime in quickly, Bambi. Um, to me, it was just a reminder of the community that we've built through this network. It had been a while since I'd seen many of the folks through BHI in person or even virtually, and it just felt really nice to walk in that room and see friendly faces. And um, there's a video, I can't remember her name now, but someone really had this external point of view, just really reinforcing kind of the value of the different approach that we've taken around building this network and the relational aspect, which I'm just always reminded by when I spend time with you all.
No, that's great, Anna. I'd be happy to hear from a couple more other people as well. I see a few people on the list here who I know were there.
Maybe I will add, this is Victoria with Northwest Cooperative Development Center. I wasn't able to go, but one of my colleagues was able to go, and this was the first time that she had like really been part of the BHI, and she walked away so inspired, so excited about our involvement and support with BHI, and has many ideas of like how we can more effectively engage and serve Black homeowners in Washington State.
That's great. You were Miss Victoria. I did miss, I'm like, I didn't hug you. Wait a minute. I usually make the rounds. Is there
Hey,
anyone else
Bambi.
feeling moved to
Bambi, we
share?
didn't get to hug either because I was out sick, but I just
That's
want to
true.
share that while I didn't end up able to attend due to illness, I was able to be a part of the planning of the event and see what was happening, in the background. And I just think huge kudos to Khadijah with Civic Commons for really helping wrangle all of us and making sure everything happened. It sounds like very successfully. And then Sophia, also with Civic Commons, I know that she played a big role in working with sponsors. And so there were a lot of folks behind the scenes that I think did a lot of work, and their work is often unsung. So I just wanted to share my appreciation.
That's great, Elizabeth. And Khadijah did get a bouquet of flowers unexpectedly. And the response was kind of like, wait a minute, this isn't in my notes. It's not in the program. We got to go with the program. So very dedicated. Well, we have time probably for one more reflection. If anyone else would like to add in their reflection about the All Partner Summit. And Michelle, I see your comment in the chat here, having a great time. Definitely inspired to join and take action. And you weren't by the sunny window since you were in the supply breakout session, but I imagine those conversations were great.
Yeah, it definitely left me something to look forward to, definitely be involved, or at least have more interest in One Drop and, their involvement and just how they're helping, upcoming Black developers. Yeah, just, I don't know, something just, not that I haven't heard it before, but just for whatever reason, this time it just kind of hit a little bit different. So just trying to look how I can increase my capacity to maybe kind of step up and be more involved in one of the subgroups.
That's so great. And I think, that is one of the big goals of that partner summit, right? People share the values of what we're doing here and they're stepping in where they can. And it's just an opportunity to say, there are some other places you might want to step in, or here's what's going on with the team that you've been, thinking about. So I definitely talked to a lot of people who were feeling inspired, feeling like they were ready to kind of review what they're doing and, kind of put it into high gear for the rest of the year. So, congratulations to the team over at Civic Commons for making an incredible event. All right, well, we have got quite a bit on our agenda, so I'm going to go ahead and move us forward here. Thank you all for sharing, and we're going to get into the policies now. So I know this is going to be a dense amount of information. I'll be sure to include a link to the recording of the meeting and also the PowerPoint slides so that you could review those at your leisure. And always feel free to reach out with any questions. We're going to pack a lot into a short period of time. It is not going to just be you that feels like, you're taking a lot of information in, but we can definitely help you try to digest that. And we're going to start with our zoning category, and we're going to hear from two presenters. So our lead items in the zoning category, they seek to produce more affordable starter homes by realizing factory-built housing production. And we're going to hear from Chris Hermans of the Scalable Starter Home Production Plan about these two lead items.
Hey, folks.
You set?
Afternoon.
All right.
Yep. Thanks so much, Bambi. Hey, folks. Hope everyone is still in the glow of the Seahawks victory, and while keeping their eyes on everything going on in Olympia. There are two things, as Bambi said, that we want to just give folks update. One is HB 2151, and that's the work specifically to bring Washington State's rules in alignment with the National International Code Council standards for offsite construction. Good news, passed out of the House unanimously, 95-0. A companion bill is being considered. There's debate right now about, the intention is to continue to move that forward. So if we have an ask for anyone, is if you're want to reach out to your senator to tell them to support the companion bill 6158, that'd be great. If you're down in Olympia and you've got a lobbyist, just talking to Senate leadership to get behind this bill. The thinking is that the House bill will be the lead, but they want to make sure that they're, in case anything comes up, that they keep raising this issue with the Senate side. There has not been resistance, and partly it's especially within with labor and industries because they asked for it. So we feel really excited about the progress there. The other is Senate Bill 6015. That's pretty permit-ready building plans. And that made it to Ways and Means. It died in Ways and Means. It was somewhat intentional. Senator Bateman had anticipated that this was going to be a 2-year bill, and given that it's a short session, there's a lot of other things, and many people, including local jurisdictions, do not have an understanding of permit-ready building plans. The intention is to put a work group together this summer and do a little bit more outreach and education on what it means, the implications, especially in terms of streamlining small lot, small home starter production, housing production. And so appreciate everyone who did a good bit of advocacy for this. It had lots of energy behind it. And at the same time, there was especially that it was going to require some fiscal implications due to the impact on both L&I and Commerce to put together a catalog of these plans and to track them, that it was being pushed out until 2027. So that's what we have for you.
And then I'll just remind everyone, for our eyes, these may look like new bills, right? Because, Chris, when we first printed our homeownership policy framework, we had an item around scalable starter home production plan, but we kind of didn't know what those actual bills were going to be that were going to move some of those concepts. So, that plan itself, as Chris was saying, the whole idea is to try and move the needle. We're trying to move the needle on the production. We've been working really aggressively on that demand side, making sure that we passed the Covenant Homeownership Act and have that support. But we need homes to buy. And so this is one particular tool having to do with factory built housing. And this is kind of how it broke out from the plan, which has so many things in it. If you haven't read it, I'm sure Chris would love to lean you into that here. So any questions that are coming up for Chris that they can answer just about, the process for these bills, how they're moving forward? Any questions? We haven't had the chance to see these bills in this room before and really chat about them. So if this isn't making sense to you, or you're wondering what are those big differences that are making these two bills the way that we're going to get to the next step, feel free to ask.
I would just chime in as well as given that 6015 is gonna get a work group this summer and come back stronger with more support next year. One thing we are doing, and Pierce County is in doing this as well. Starter Home is working with Schemata Workshop to do a townhome design competition that will create permit-ready plans for up to 6-unit townhomes. So we're moving that along, and again, that will be an avenue to continue to do the education support around 6015 in 2027.
Any questions coming from anyone in the room about these two bills or any of the other work that's happening right now with the Scalable Starter Home Production Plan? And Chris, can you give us an update? We know that a really important part of the plan had to do with making sure that that collaborative is up and running and pulling the levers for all of the different elements of the plan. Can we get an update on how that is going?
Sure. We have secured about $950,000 in private sector financing to put together a set of sub-network and work groups similar to the Black Home Initiative. It's actually building off all of the successes of BHI. And those are they're going to get launched this quarter. And that includes focus around land clearinghouses and as well as offsite industry group and a systems-based developer collaborative. And so we are partnering with Housing Future Center at University of Washington to do some deeper landscape scans around the various active stakeholders in each of those arenas to start pulling together ideas for who might be interested in being active participants in those subnetworks and work groups. Simultaneously, we're building out and working with Housing Future Center to develop a statewide data dashboard. And that includes real-time tracking of starter home production across the state. And we're also starting to work with local jurisdictions who are at the front edge of really incorporating and facilitating small lot developers to build starter homes. And building out the whole just kind of communications, education, and coordination infrastructure around that. So super excited about the interest, and we continue simultaneously to work alongside the governor's housing task force to ensure that as that executive order gets implemented by the task force, that the starter home plan and recommendations can become seeds for and aligned with a lot of that work, knowing that the starter home plan is really meant to be an accelerant to changing the way we build for sale small homes up to for low and moderate income homeowners, especially using offsite methods and working with small lot developers. And there's a lot that really has to go into that. And our hope is that this really becomes a bridge and a stepping stone for the way that the whole system and the ecosystem around housing production can change.
Thanks for that, Chris. And Crosby, you have your hand up?
Well, I needed to raise that issue I texted you about. I'm actually at an event, so I'm missing my whole thing. But can I chime in here real quick, Bambi, and raise my little issue?
Certainly.
Okay, hey guys, I got a 911 reach out from Corbett Mosley around the CRP funding. He said it's going to the floor in the next hour. And the original sponsors with Reeves and Nobles went to him and said, hey, we don't really understand why there's any housing funding in the CRP. And we actually are going to propose to cut out the housing portion of the CRP and move any of those funds over to the Covenant Homeownership Program instead. And so he's putting out an all call because it goes to the floor in the next hour. And he's hoping people can reach out, whatever we can do to help educate that supply is the only way that we are going to build the units that are necessary for Covenant buyers. And if we cut it, it'll be codified without the ability to provide land acquisition, pre-development, all of the things that our developers are going to rely on. So it's a time sensitive all call to see who can help educate them very quickly in the next hour before they propose the striker.
Thanks for
That's
that,
right.
Crosby. And
That's what I
there may be some people in the room who are like, what are you talking about? A
I know.
community
Sorry.
reinvestment program
Sorry.
bill. But I understand this is time limited. So
Yeah. If anybody
you know,
wants to educate why land acquisition and pre-development are so integral and why the community reinvestment program helps unlock those funds, then that would be fantastic.
And Crosby, do you understand what they mean when they say they're going to move it under the Covenant
Yeah.
Homeownership
So he
Act?
said he
'Cause
basically,
that has
because
its own
there's,
funding source and it's
they
not
want to
doing anything
bolster,
like that.
they want to bolster the money that goes to Covenant, which I don't disagree with. But they're saying, well, instead of it having anything funnel through for housing going through CRP, let's just cut it and then switch those funds over to Covenant. That's a game of telephone, right? So they talked to Corbett. Corbett called me, and I'm telling you. So what exactly they're proposing, I don't know. Just that he was very concerned that we needed people to educate around why CRP has been so integral.
Basically, this is Jason with One Drop, apologies. We basically like the bill as is and we don't like the amendment.
And convincing them not to say it. Yeah, I mean, anybody else?
And then we have Kathleen and Elizabeth.
So just a practical question. If it's going to the floor in an hour, what are the mechanics for us to provide input? And I mean, can we mobilize a quick form email to send, or what are the mechanics of the support? That I think it's important for everybody to recognize that putting more money over to Covenant Homeownership Program will not create the homes. We've got to be addressing the supply issue, and that's what those funds generally were for as a complement to Covenant Homeownership Program. So some education is needed in that regard.
Yeah, I don't have the answer. You all are much smarter than me in that space. I am merely the messenger.
To me, the first step would be for you to reach out via email to Senator Nobles and to Rep. Reeves. If they are the leads on the bills and a striker is coming forward. So that would be the first thing that I would be thinking to do.
Yeah, hey Crosby, I'm 100% with Bambi on that. That's the perfect thing to do. Could you put the bill number in the chat
I
for
think
everybody?
he said it was 2158. I'm at a conference, so you guys are
I'll
literally
do
on
it.
my phone in the middle of what was supposed to
Thanks,
be lunch and
Crosby.
me having a table thing happening. So,
All right.
So yeah, you basically send both of those Rep. Reeves and Senator Noble's emails, or text them if you know them. They both check their emails very quickly and are very good about checking their own emails. That would be the best bet. I think Bambi hit on the head.
And then Elizabeth.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said about sort of like the understanding the spirit of this proposed change, but that it's not going to solve the supply issues. And I would also add to that the other aspect that's problematic is that if we as BHI are serious about expanding Black home ownership in the target region, collapsing essentially CRP into CHP, into Covenant, would really restrict who benefits, which Black homebuyers benefit from those dollars, as I understand it, right? Because it is so narrowly tailored, and then we're underserving additional Black homebuyers or homeowners that we could serve, right? And just having attended the information session for CRP yesterday, right, I was very excited about the direction in terms of money for supply, money for home repair, money for DPA, debt reduction. There's a lot that is potentially lost. If those programs are collapsed, unless I'm misunderstanding this.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, what are the logistics of that? And has anyone talked to Wishvic? Because that is not actually how the funding stream works, nor how the logic behind the funding stream works.
I'm going to go because I'm missing the whole thing I'm
Thanks,
supposed to present.
Crosby. Thanks so much.
So, that's what I got for you. Thank you so much for what you do.
Yeah, and then if we are talking about the same bill here, Jason, I believe it's HB 2523 is the only community reinvestment program bill that I know that's currently active, but maybe there's something I don't know. So if you have a different bill number, please be sure to put it in the chat. So yes, here we are, like breaking news kind of moment here, a new one for this group. But yes, absolutely. Senator Nobles, strong supporter of BHI, Rep. Reeves, strong supporter of BHI, both strong supporters of CHA. So just wondering if we're getting messages mixed, or, it's really hard when we don't see the language of something to know. But it never hurts to reconnect with our champions and just reiterate, we're in support of both the supply and the demand, and we are very much in support of the Community Reinvestment Program. All right, well, as those of you who can respond to that and decide to send some messages, I'm going to go ahead and move us forward in our agenda. We are actually going to land up back talking about that Community Reinvestment Program bill. And again, Jason, if it's a different bill than the one I see there because it somehow went past my radar, let me know. All right, thanks so much, Chris. And we're going to move forward here. So one of the new support items in our zoning and regulatory reform category seeks to ensure fairness in opportunity for our first-time home buyers. This bill emerged after the session, and then when we received a reach out from the Washington Realtors, we also received at the exact same moment reach outs from our fair housing partners like National Fair Housing Alliance, who helped us with the CHA history bill. And then many members of our BHI core team. So we kind of quickly learned about this bill and got it into the digest, but it is new to all of you. And we're going to speak with Mary here from Washington Realtors, who's going to help us understand this bill and how we can advocate for it. And it was a pleasure to help Mary prepare for the meeting this morning. We hadn't had a chance to talk for a while. Last time Mary and I had connected is when I was helping organize our testimony for Covenant Homeownership Act. And the Washington Realtors were part of that coalition and a big reason that we made it possible for us to get that first in the nation bill passed in just 1 year. And so I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mary.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Bambi. It was an honor to work on that piece of legislation, and we were proud to be a part of it. So thank you. Well, good afternoon, everybody. As Bambi mentioned, my name is Mary Hill Drury. I serve as the Government Affairs Director with the Washington Realtors. Speaking kind of specifically to this, I think I want to take a little bit of a step back. I think it's important, at least for our organization, to begin by stating the Realtors don't have a stellar history of supporting fair housing, and it's a history that we own and acknowledge. Ironically, it's one that, had it persisted and continued, would have prevented me from owning a home and being here with you today to talk about our work on Senate Bill 6091. So like many industries, real estate change can come fast and then sometimes slow. As it relates to the origin story of this bill, Senate Bill 6091, changes have come pretty fast. So recently, we were made aware of a real estate practice concerning private listing networks. Essentially, a private listing network is a secure, exclusive database used by real estate agents to market properties privately before they're listed publicly. Proponents of private listing networks state that they believe that the practice allows sellers to test the market in a quiet and subtle manner. However, our organization contends that it restricts access and limits transparency. From there, we believe it's a slippery slope towards fair housing violations, resulting in a high risk of history repeating itself. So interestingly, while we were working to develop the language and just prior to the bill dropping itself, there was a large merger announced in real estate where the use of private listing networks now has the potential of becoming exponentially larger and bigger and more prevalent. Thankfully, the tenets and the work that we did on the language apply regardless of brokerage size or market share. And in effect, what the bill does is ensures that real estate brokers market available housing for either sale or rent to the general public and the real estate market, not solely to a limited or a private group. There is an exception in the language that if health or safety of the owner or occupant is a concern, they can be exempted from that requirement. Violations, because it's focused on real estate practitioners and real estate brokers, are under the purview of the Department of Licensing, more specifically the Real Estate License Law, who is empowered to investigate and discipline any violations. It also adds language to the Law of Agency pamphlet, which is a document that's required by law to be provided to buyers and sellers, so they're aware of this requirement. One thing that we always think it's really important to call out, at least in the language of the bill and the intention, is that it does not mandate that all homes be bought or sold in the same way, meaning if there's clarifying language in the bill that if a homeowner doesn't want to host an open house, they don't need to host an open house. So it doesn't say how you need to make the listing publicly available. It's just that you need to make it publicly available. So ultimately, the goal of Senate Bill 6091 is to promote transparency, fairness, and equal access to housing opportunities, regardless of who people choose to work with. So insofar as kind of the timeline, because it's a short session, that we're on the 32nd day of session, where we are in the process is the bill was introduced in the House and the Senate. There was a companion version, and it was introduced in the first week of session. The main vehicle is the Senate version, so that's Senate Bill 6091. It passed unanimously off the Senate floor about 2 days ago. It's now on its way to the House, and we suspect it will be referred to the Consumer Protection and Business Committee, since that's where the House companion bill originally landed. And our hope is that it will get scheduled for a hearing after the House of Origin cutoff, which is currently scheduled for the 17th, so in about a week or so. We've had really amazing support from a very broad group of coalition partners, some of you who are here on the call today and have provided excellent testimony. And we want to make sure that to maintain all of the positive momentum that we've built up and continue to seek partners to sign in support for the bill as it works its way through the House. And we're happy to share and make sure that everyone is aware of when you can sign in on your position, testify on the bill when it gets scheduled in the House committee. We also have a sign-on letter available for organizations to express their support. I'm happy to add a link, or I think one of our partners or coalition partners might be able to add a link to the chat if you'd like to join that letter. And I will go ahead and pause here to see if anybody has any questions for me at all. So it was on the floor calendar in the Senate. It's not currently scheduled for floor action in the House. I think that might have been a question for me.
Yeah, this bill is ahead of the game. You are
Yeah, we're a little early.
Already out of your House of Origin. And the unanimous vote is the best kind of vote. So, excited to see the momentum behind it. And then it will be moving on into the Senate. So next opportunity would be kind of that sign-in pro and committee as it moves forward. And we'll be sure to make sure that that opportunity comes to you in the digest. And then it looks like we have the sign-on letter there. If you're interested, if you have the ability as the authorized agent for your organization to sign in on a support letter for a bill, then this would be one for you to hit the link on. Any other questions coming up for anyone in the room? Any comments? All right.
I just appreciate it, Mary. I love that we have 295 to zeros coming out of our bills.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is a piece of legislation that has become a passion piece for me, as you could imagine. So I'm really pleased with the momentum that we've had so far, and thank you for all of those of you who have joined, testified, supported the bill, and welcome to anybody who wants to join the party. It's a great place to be.
Well, it does kind of feel a little bit like an old crew getting together, because there are a lot of the same coalition members here that were behind the Covenant Homeownership Act that are putting their weight behind this bill to make sure that it moves forward.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. I know we're tracking. It's lunchtime. We're digesting. A whole bunch of things are happening here. It is post Seahawks Wednesday. All such things, but we can do it. I'm going to give a last call here for Mary's time. Anyone else have a comment or a thought or a question having to do with the Senate Bill 6091?
I'd also like to avail myself if anybody's interested in talking off the line. I'm always happy to do so. So thank you.
That's great, Mary. And you can feel free to put your email in the chat, or anyone could reach out to me and I'll be sure to connect you.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're moving right along. So we're now going to move on to learn about the new bills that have been added into the funding category in our framework after the session started. And we're going to welcome Elizabeth Bettis, the Executive Director of WHRC, also a member of our BHI Policy Strategy Team, and Keeps Giving, also a member of our BHI Core Team. Go ahead and take it away, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Bambi, and thanks for keeping us organized and attuned to all the many things happening throughout legislative session. So in terms of new funding bills that we're keeping track of as a network. The first one we've talked about a little bit already in this meeting is a support bill about the Community Reinvestment Program. This program is run by the Department of Commerce. So the Community Reinvestment Program is overseen by Commerce. And it started with a $200 million appropriation back in 22. And then another chunk to the tune of 50 million provided in 2025. The aim of the program is really to uplift communities that have been disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs, housing discrimination, historic inequities. And one way that that happens is by helping create new homeowners in our communities. So HB 2523 wants to ensure that we protect those critical investments in our communities by refining the program to ensure community voice, equitable outcomes, and to receive a guaranteed yearly appropriation so that there's some stability in that program and communities can plan for that. So the bill is things are moving and shaking quickly, it sounds like, around this one. But as of the creation of this slideshow, the bill was in the Rules Committee, and we hope to see it pulled to the House floor for a vote before the February 17th House of Origin cutoff. As you now know, there's some additional conversations happening now related to some amendments and appropriations. So one amendment would remove the language for a guaranteed amount of a yearly appropriation, and the other to open up which organizations can apply for grants if there's 5 or less organizations statewide who are providing the needed services free to clients. We're not super excited about the change around the yearly appropriation, but we understand that in the uncertain budget environment that we're in, that was bound to happen. However, we need you to lean in on the bill and really, be helping us track its progress. Legislators know, of course, we talked about this earlier, how important this work is, how important community reinvestment is, and, the impact that it has. So I know we discussed this a little bit earlier and things are moving and changing really quickly. Are there any additional comments on this bill or questions that folks have or ways that you want to engage as a coalition here?
And I'll just, I'll report out that, I watched the appropriations hearing for the bill in which the 2 amendments came. They were, I believe, friendly amendments. They came from you. And we all know that Washington Build Back Black Alliance has been a big mover for this bill. Paul has been sending out asks to make sure that we're getting this going. And this is a scenario where it's kind of a refinement, or so it was, like kind of more of a administrative refinement, making sure that intention matches the outcomes, and also just helping this get into a different implementable phase, right? It came in, the work started, but this is something that is needed now, needed 10 years from now, and should not be a flash in the pan. So it is incredibly important for all of you to speak up to your legislators, to let them know the many ways that the Community Reinvestment Program affects our communities, and to, quite frankly, push against some of the energy which has come up for a couple of years now, that somehow when we have targeted assistance, we deserve a higher level of scrutiny and we cannot be trusted, and lots of accusations in the Appropriations Committee around what's going on with this bill. And what's going on with the program, which, feels always not amazing. So, really important for people to reach out, understand that there is a lot of community push behind this, but a concept comes and then a concept goes. If there isn't power behind it, if there aren't people who are advocating and saying, this was a positive change, we need to make sure it's implementable and going to create the change we want to see. We cannot be throwing babies out with bathwater under kind of the same tropes about what happens when you do targeted assistance. So that's kind of my take on it. Yeah, my take on it. I don't quite understand exactly the report we heard. Of course, we can't confirm it in terms of what that information is or what a striker might be. Unfortunately, for all of us lay people, the system, the legislative system, when things are updated and when we see them is like 5 steps behind when everybody has already made the decision. And it's really that process of a staff member getting it into the legislative system build. So a lot of times we won't know a bill's going to be on the floor quite as, quite as quickly or quite as accurately. But typically, if you're going to offer some type of an amendment or a striker, whether it be friendly or not friendly, that tends to determine when your bill will go to the floor. You as the sponsor will be wanting that amendment registered into the system so that there's an opportunity for people to see it, so that when you have your debate, people receive the amount of notice they needed. So there are some kind of time frames about when things show up after ideas happen, but totally would recommend that people just reach out either very specifically or very generally to say, this program, the concept of community reinvestment is not new. It's a 1970s bill, actually, under Jimmy Carter. And so these aren't new ideas. These are positive changes for our community members. And yeah, we need some stability and we need some certainty. And we want to make sure that community voice is paramount in how that happens.
Thanks, Bambi. Any other thoughts related to this bill before we move on to the next one? All right, thank you. So the next bill that we want to discuss with you is, or just kind of keep you up to date, is SB 5938. This is the foreclosure fairness trailer bill. So last session, SB 5686 passed the state legislature, and what that did was create an $80 loan origination fee for new mortgage transactions, residential transactions, and that fee goes into the foreclosure fairness account and helps support what we call the statewide foreclosure fairness program, which means that Washingtonians who are facing foreclosure are able to avail themselves of, having a free hotline that they could call, that's WHRC, being able to make use of, HUD certified housing counseling specific to foreclosure prevention, and even civil legal aid services for those who need that. So really, really critical services that are provided through foreclosure fairness. So that bill, what it did is provide some more stable funding for that program because it faced a funding cliff without that. And then the other piece that it did was it expanded the foreclosure fairness program to include not just those facing mortgage default, but also those facing HOA or COA foreclosure. So now there's additional rights and resources for those folks in terms of being able to request mediation, for example. So what this trailer bill does is it revises the legislation language to ensure that there's clarity in how the fee is assessed. Because what we were finding was that people who use layered financing, like those using down payment assistance, they're being charged multiple times the $80 for one residence, right? We don't want someone in that position to be footing more of the bill, right, for the foreclosure fairness program. So it means that by passing this trailer bill, you're charged once, during that home purchase. And then it also provides language that clarifies who gets charged the fee. So taking out reverse mortgage, there's a reverse mortgage carve out, as well as folks who are making use of chattel loans because they're not able to make use of the foreclosure fairness program as it currently stands. And then lastly, and I think this is really exciting, is that the passage of this bill, this trailer bill, would ensure that there's a study to see whether it's feasible for a portion of the fee collected to contribute to a homeowner assistance fund. So those of you who, are involved in any way with foreclosure prevention know that until recently, there were some ARPA funds that were used, administered by the Housing Finance Commission to help people financially who were facing foreclosure. That program ended in April. There's no more monies for folks who are facing foreclosure. This study would see what's possible for the state to be able to take on something similar in the future. May not have the magnitude, right, that the previous HALF program had, but anything helps, for homeowners in need. So we do, of course, strongly support this bill as a network. Certainly WTRC does. I'm looking forward to testifying in support of this bill. It passed the Senate unanimously. It has a hearing in the House Housing Committee next week, so next Thursday, February 19th. So between now and then, please do sign in pro and share that with your networks. And I know that Bambi's been putting links and things, and we'll keep you up to date. Any questions on that bill? I'm not good at tracking chat, but feel free to unmute.
And I'll just let everyone
Oh,
know
yeah.
you can see the link there to sign in pro to support the bill. It takes literally 30 seconds. And although you can do it anytime between now and February 19th at 7 a.m., now is really good. So let's go ahead and take now to support in and to sign in and support as we kind of transition between this and the next bill that we'll be talking about. Any other questions or comments before we move forward? All right.
All right. I have revolving loan fund next. Am I out of order? Oh, I was out of order. Sorry about that, Bambi. I'm back. I'm back together now. All right. So this new support bill that we want to make sure folks that it's on folks' radar is HB 2442, local REIT for affordable housing. So what it does is it looks to provide local governments with more resources and fund flexibility by adding a local jurisdiction real estate excise tax or REIT option, as well as updating how the funds provided to local governments in previous bills can be used to support affordable housing. So a REIT is on the sale or transfer of real property, and it's often paid by the seller and based on the selling price. So what this bill does is it gives local jurisdictions, cities, counties, the ability to consider whether they'll add a new REIT and have those funds go to capital projects like affordable housing. Knowing that we need every dollar we can get to create the homes that we need in our communities. And, this new REIT, although well below 1%, does add up to new funding. Additionally, this bill allows some more flexibility around the previous funding bills. So HB 1590 and, HB 1406, which concerned a portion of sales tax going to affordable housing. This bill will provide needed revenue, and it's in rules waiting to be pulled for a House vote by the February 17th House of Origin cutoff. So does anyone have a question about this bill around local REITs for affordable housing or any more information to share about it? All right. Okay, so the next one concerns SB 6028, revolving loan fund for permanently affordable mixed income homes. And this bill isn't technically new to the group because it was in our last year's framework. However, we did not think that this bill would move forward this year, and then there it was entered into the session after it began. The bill would establish a revolving loan fund for the development of permanently affordable mixed income homes. Every dollar counts when homes are being built, and this revolving loan fund can help provide that bridge to get to the total number of dollars needed to ensure that a project gets finished. This bill has been led by our partners at Habitat for Humanity. Its primary sponsor is Senator Alvarado. And as of course, we know she's a strong champion for affordable housing. Unfortunately, this bill did not pass out of the Ways and Means Fiscal Committee by the February 9th cutoff. So unless it becomes designated necessary to implement the budget or NTIB, then it will no longer be in our policy process. So we're going to be looking into that. A funding bill can be designated necessary to implement the budget if it has political will behind it. But this is a very complicated budget year, and political capital needs to be spent judiciously. So, with that, does anyone have an update or any information they want to add about this one?
Kathleen, yeah, I'm not sure if Elizabeth can see your hand there,
Yeah.
so.
So I just want to clarify, Habitat ran a similar bill last year. They didn't necessarily run this bill. This year it's different. This is Alvarado's bill. And Alvarado's intention behind the bill was to provide a resource that would incentivize for-profit developers to develop more permanently affordable home ownership. So there's a slightly different purpose. And with that in mind, that I think we just want to be clear that this would not benefit necessarily us in the nonprofit world as much as it was intended to benefit for-profit folks doing mixed income. So for-profit folks trying to do affordable as opposed to affordable people that are putting in market rate homes into their projects. So I just want to be clear. That's why it's sort of having a hard time, is because people don't quite understand, where it's coming from. And I just want everybody here to be clear on the purpose of this. So the other concern I have is that this would divert money away from those of us in the nonprofit sector, and prioritize it for for-profit developers when we're ready to go. We need more funding. And we're ready to build those homes. So that's my 2 cents.
That's a helpful clarification, Kathleen. I really appreciate that. Any others? All right, Bambi. Moving along.
All right. Well, thanks for that help, Elizabeth. We do have one more bill for you to share with us. I'm going to give you a moment to take a breath. This one is our cost reduction category. And we'll go ahead, and now that Elizabeth is momentarily rested, we'll finish up with this last bill report from Elizabeth.
Happy to help. Bambi helps keep us organized. She makes this all easy. So all right. So under cost reduction, new support bill we want to make sure is on your radar. And the last one I'll be speaking with you about today is HB 1717. This is a bill that was also in our 2025 framework, but we didn't expect it to be reintroduced this year. So it's another not so new bill that's new now or resurfaced now. And it tackles the expense of building new homes. So when homes are being built to serve the public good, it makes sense that we should attempt to reduce those extraneous costs as much as possible. This one is about moving around the walnuts. So if we provide subsidy to build these homes and yet they're subject to sales and use tax for their construction supplies, aren't we just moving the money around and creating unnecessary hoops? So the bill wants to be able to have a portion of the sales and use taxes paid for the supplies to be refunded to the public purpose developer so that they can use those funds to get more units built. And then looks like this one just passed out of the House unanimously yesterday and will be now moving on to the Senate. There were 3 excused reps for that vote, but all 95 other reps did vote for its passage, and we're looking forward to providing you with opportunities to advocate for this one in the Senate. Any updates on this one or anything that folks want to add?
Hey, Elizabeth, it's Jason from Shape here. Sorry, on the road, but I just want to note something, and I want to say thanks to Kathleen and the Northwest Land Trust Coalition for flagging an issue in this bill. So we noted that affordable housing had a definition just of household using household income only up to 30% of the household income for housing. We know that in the affordable homeownership world, that's typically moved up to 38% with some different categories of expenses there. It's not really in state statute. It's used as a policy item in the Housing Trust Fund. So we sort of, I guess, we refined this bill to create a better pathway for usage for land trusts and others in the affordable homeownership space. And I think probably created a new definition for affordable housing to really clarify that for homeownership, we need to have a little more flexibility in the income usage. So we do expect this bill will move. Senator Bateman will move it very quickly in Senate Housing. And I would very much expect this one to pass into law this year.
I'd love to hear about that kind of collaboration. That is why we're in a network together, right? So that we can get all eyes on these bills. We all have our own kind of information sources, and when we can share with one another, we're always going to be making better policy.
I have a question. Elizabeth says something about excuse, or was that recuse?
Oh, yeah. So like, did those folks, those 3 reps recuse themselves, Bambi, or were they excused?
Well, they're just excused, and excused usually means they couldn't make it that day for whatever reason. So in essence, you have a unanimous vote because likely if they were present, they would have voted, but it'll never go on the record as that. So often you want to have your whole 98-0, which some bills have. Lucky bills you are. I have unanimous NB, but it was just 3 excused, meaning that, they had an excuse for the day.
Oh, I just didn't know well, I know what excuse means, but I didn't know in this context what it meant. So
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
it varies. Yeah, it varies for every instance why someone is excused for the moment. It could be another commitment, sickness, whatever else they have going on.
Thank you.
I always love seeing your beautiful yellow roses, Linda. And it was great to see you yesterday too. Or day before yesterday. See what happens when you have a parade? You have no idea what day it is anymore. Well, if there are any questions further about 1717, we'll hear from you now. But outside of that, thank you so much, Elizabeth, for walking through those for us. As you might have all noticed, we have our champions and speakers coming in to talk about bills. We also have our strategy team, our strategy group members stepping up to make sure that you know their face and you can reach out to them. They are the ambassadors for our policy work. And so thanks again to Elizabeth for stepping in there. All right. So I do appreciate, the willingness of people to step in, to get things on our radar, to provide information. Our framework is a pretty lengthy list, and it's not an easy task to keep all of the bill concepts straight. So I do appreciate you all and the offering of your wisdom as we move through. We're going to end our meeting by going through just 2 more bills, so we are almost there. And both of these are lead items in our framework. They're in different buckets, but they're both lead items. So the first bill we heard about last month, this is an update then for the Coordinated Land Banking Bill of Representative Hill, HB 1974. This bill was introduced as House Bill 1974 last year. It was revised through a significant work group and stakeholder input process that we led during the interim. So it was about 70 different people providing input on that first bill that happened in 2025 to make sure that we were crafting something for 2026 that could be passed and that could be impactful. So this bill is all about land, and land can be nearly a quarter of the cost of housing development. But it tends to be a little bit of the missing link or the missing puzzle piece in our housing policy. And we certainly cannot be leaving those cost savings on the cutting room floor. We need coordinated land banking. So when you are talking about land, if you're finding the land, if you're holding the land, if you're negotiating the cost of the land and preparing it, it does take time and it takes resources. And time and resources for our public purpose housing developers is something that, they don't have, especially small and emerging BIPOC developers. They need support to be able to gain traction within our development systems after decades of discrimination. And so something like a land banking coordination is going to benefit everyone. And so everyone needs access, and that's what this bill is about. Authorized land banks can move land into the hands of those who are ready to build solutions in our state. There are underutilized parcels that could be the affordable homes of tomorrow. And every county is going to have something different. Every city is going to have something different. Here in King County, the number of underutilized parcels may be fewer, but every time we're able to, reduce the cost on land, get a parcel activated, not only are we creating the homes that everyone needs, we're also taking a parcel that would have been kind of a low tax item, and we're converting it into something that could be a higher tax item, contributing new neighbors, contributing new tax and the ability for, more connection in our communities. So it's kind of a technical thing. And then when you think about it a little bit more, you're like, well, how many other bills do we have that potentially could create a, 20 or 25% difference in the life of a project? And so that's what this bill is trying to do here. The bill is currently in the rules, and it is about to go to the House floor for a debate. The QR code that you see there, this is a pre-written letter of support. It's going to go directly to whoever the legislators are for you based on where you live. So you're basically just adding your name and where you live so that they know who to email in your district. It takes basically another 30 seconds to do it. And I'll go ahead and add in a direct link in the chat for you if you don't feel like pulling your phone out and doing the QR code. This link is going to be open for the entirety of the session, so please do feel free to share that with others. Basically, bills change as they move through the session sometimes. Sometimes they don't have the unanimous vote with no amendments, and so we will be updating language in the letter as the bill receives amendments. But every day is a good day to be reaching out to your legislators and connecting with them and asking them to support this bill. And this has been doing well in committee. We never assume success until the bill is signed by the governor, and we need to get this bill through the legislature and onto the governor's desk. We know he is in support of the bill as he had staff attend the work group and stakeholder meetings, and he has expressed his support. So we hope that you can help us ensure passage out of the House and then smooth sailing through the Senate. And you will notice, there have been a couple of friendly amendments, just kind of making sure that the concept is implementable. And then there is going to be an amendment by the primary sponsor, Rep. Hill, before the House vote. And that will change a little bit of kind of what are the tools or mechanisms that these authorized land banks will have to be able to affect change. So you have this up here on your screen now. And again, after a minute here, I'll go ahead and put another link in the chat for you. Any questions on this particular bill? Any comments? All right, we're so close. One away. All right. So this is the last bill, or set of bills actually, that we will discuss in detail today. And it's a set of bills because, the trust fund is part of the capital budget, and the capital budget has a House side and it has a Senate side. And the Washington State Housing Trust Fund is the #1 source of capital dollars for housing development in our state, and affordable homeownership has had an inconsistent relationship with attention from this fund. There have been years when no dollars at all were allocated to affordable homeownership, but recently we have seen record level investments. We're having a collective impact on legislators, and homeownership's finally kind of coming into its own. And yet the amount that is suggested does not reflect the scale of the homes needed, nor the willingness of our public purpose builders to make those homes. So Governor Ferguson recommended 73 million for affordable homeownership in the Housing Trust Fund this year, and that certainly is a recommendation that carries weight, but ultimately it will be the legislature that creates the budget, and we all know that this is the second half of the biennium. Our state is facing some very real and very difficult financial realities. And so it is very important for us to continue to advocate for robust support for homeownership in 2026. And so we need you all to lean in. So BHI centers low to moderate income homeownership in the Black community to erase our state's racial homeownership and racial wealth gaps. And to provide those opportunities, we need as much funding as possible. So there is an organizational sign-on letter for those of you who are able to be the person who can make that decision around your organization. And that is coming from Community Land Trusts and Habitats asking for robust homeownership funding. And you can connect with Kathleen Hosfeld about that if you are able to be the one who could go ahead and get yourself signed on for that organization letter. It was something in the digest last week. It'll be in there again this week, but certainly if you have questions or just want to make sure that gets done immediately, reach out to Kathleen. Secondly, there is an opportunity on your screen right now. HDC has organized a letter about the Housing Trust Fund, and this is more of a broader letter. It's asking for robust funding support for all housing, including homeownership. You can go ahead and scan this QR code, and you can send a pre-written kind of letter of support to your legislator. Any questions or comments for Housing Trust Fund? They basically did a hearing right at the beginning of session to hear what people think. And then everything goes into a black box and it becomes 4 a.m. at the very end of session. And maybe we see another hearing 75% way through, possibly. It depends on how those negotiations and conversations happen. And so again, it's never a bad idea to specifically talk about your support for the Housing Trust Fund all the time, every day, because that process is a lot less transparent because there are so many moving parts when we're talking about a very large budget with so many line items and all of the developing pressures in the legislature to see how they will do what is their primary job, which is to balance a budget by the end of the year. Any other questions coming up for this? All right. Well, we made it, and we made it ahead of schedule, 10 bills later, and you are now updated on your leads and the new bills. There are other bills that are not our leads nor our new bills that are in the framework, and it has been updated. Again, you'll find that updated version in the digest tomorrow. The policy digest is probably your best way to stay updated in a fast-moving session. It's in your inbox tomorrow. I hope you'll advocate through the opportunities presented and those not presented. I try to give you literally will take you 5 minutes to do these 4, and then you will be good. You will feel like you did something. You will do your due diligence. You will contribute, and you'll move into your day feeling a little bit lighter, knowing that rather than feeling like there's no way to affect change, you're doing concrete things to do so. So we're going to go ahead and open floor time. Is there anything that people have for the rest of us, for the good of the whole, an announcement, anything going on that we should all know about? Anything coming to mind for you that we may have talked about today or missed today that you would like to bring out onto the floor? Quieter group today. I can know why. So not seeing that we're having a lot of the humans speaking up today, just making it through your Thursday, that's for sure. I'm going to go back to one of my favorite slides real quick. Sorry, not to try and make you dizzy. You might want to turn away from the screen here for a second. This one. Happy day, Seattle. And, any day for a community party is a good day. Keep the party going at your house. I'm sure that there will be reprisals of frivolity this weekend having to do with this idea. So excited to be there. My son and his friend were smart enough to take a paint bucket. One that they could both make noise with, and then they could stand on at the front area. They got some high fives from players. They were super excited. So, all right. Well, if that's what we have today and everyone's feeling great, please do feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'll always try to connect you with anyone who was in the space here that you want to connect with. And I'm going to, before I close us out, oh, did I hear someone? Nope. I'm going to put that link in there here for coordinated land banking. Anyone else in the space? Just last comment. All right. Have a great weekend. Yes, we will get through Friday. It will become hopefully a weekend for some of us, although I have to say I see your emails on the weekend. I know how late you all are staying up. I know how dedicated you are, but please do refresh yourself. Take time for yourself. If we get a few sun rays in the sky, go out and sit in one.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great to
Andy.
see you. Yeah.
Have a
great
great
weekend,
day,
all.
everybody.
Thank
you. Go Hawks.
you.